Hello, everyone. This is Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, the Disrupt Meister. Welcome to This Week in Bitcoin. Today is August the 18th, 2017. Hey, we have a worldwide guest here today from all over the world. We've got Josh Nussbaum coming in from New York. We've got Aaron Van Weerdum coming in from Europe, and we also have Money Triggs, the legendary tweeter, coming in for Europe. Welcome to the show, everyone. Let's just jump right into this because all over Twitter right now, people are talking about this Bitpay situation. They've done something controversial. There's a lot of backlash. There's talk of a boycott. Aaron, tell us what is going on with Bitpay. Why is everyone angry and what's going on?
Right. So I'll try to walk you through this. So Bitpay, we all know Bitpay is the payment company, of course, the payment processor. They also maintain a Bitcoin development platform, which is called Bitcore, and Bitcore powers Bitcoin apps. Like it powers a couple of well-known Bitcoin applications, like Trezor uses it, and Copay, which is their wallet, the Bitpay wallet, and there's a couple more of these kinds of well-known apps, and you can build your. So that's called Bitcore. Now, Bitpay put out a blog post. I think it was yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. They put out a blog post which is called "To Be Ready for Segwit Activation." Now, as we all know, Segwit is about to activate on the Bitcoin network. That's supposed to happen about a week from now. I think it's still scheduled for the 23rd. So they put out this blog post how to deal with Segwit activation, and this blog post has really riled up a lot of people because it's quite misleading. It's misleading for a couple of reasons. So the first reason it's misleading is because it kind of really urges readers that they need to do anything at all, that they need to upgrade their nodes in order to be ready for Segwit. That's already not really accurate because Segwit is backwards compatible. So if you don't do anything at all, if you just keep using Bitcoin as you were, you should be totally fine. There's no problem. It's still good to upgrade. That there's no reason not to upgrade, but there's no rush. There's no emergency whatsoever. You're fine if you don't upgrade. But the bigger problem is that the guide they've provided, what they are recommending people to do to upgrade is download the BTC One software. And BTC One is the software that's the result from that's the Segwit 2x stuff, right? So that's what Garzik is developing based on the New York agreements. Now, this is actually completely incompatible with the current Bitcoin protocol. So in November, it's scheduled for November, there will be another hard fork, and it will be a little bit like, at this point, like, they may want everyone to upgrade. They may want this to be some kind of hard fork upgrade of the Bitcoin system. But right now, that seems very unlikely because there's no support from Bitcoin core developers at all. There's a lot of users who don't want it. There's a lot of companies who haven't endorsed it or signed up for this or whatsoever. So it seems much more likely that if this goes through at all, it will just be its own network and its own currency. And there will be a big debate on which one is the real Bitcoin and which one will have the name Bitcoin and all of that. And I'll skip over that. The point is that what they're suggesting users do is upgrade to a completely incompatible version of Bitcoin, or whatever you even want to call it, right? People have been calling it Bitcoin 2x or B2x, or it could be like Bitcoin Cash, right? Like it's just a different currency altogether. Now, BitPay in this blog post is not being honest about that at all. They're suggesting that people just upgrade to this new protocol as if that's the safe way to go about it. But it's not. This is a very risky thing to do if you don't know what you're doing, or this upgrade itself is risky. It didn't implement proper replay protection at this point, so you could accidentally spend coins on both chains even if you don't want to. Well, there's like a whole range of issues here. It's very irresponsible of BitPay to put this out as if it's somehow the safe way to go forward. So this is riled up. A lot of people. A lot of people are angry. That's why they're now calling on a boycott for BitPay.
So I mean, my question is, why did they do this? Why did they put this misinformation out there? What's the incentive?
I mean, I don't like assuming bad faith, but they must know better. They must at least know that this is controversial, or that this is not a set in stone certain upgrade. This reeks like very intentional deception just to get people to upgrade to this new system without really realizing what they're doing. I should know they did add an addendum later on because of the backlash, in which they state that maybe there will be 2 chains, but then one then the original chain, the Bitcoin protocol we're using now, would be very slow because there would be no hash power support. But this is all speculation. We don't know what miners are going to do. Even if mining pools signed up for this protocol upgrade, miners can move to new pools, or pools can abandon their promise. Like the whole thing is, it's not a very honest way to go about it. At the very least,
I agree.
At the very least, they should have just put it clearly, like there will be a split, or like if you want to do this, or if you want to stay on this chain. That's what they should have done at the very least. This is a deceptive way of going about it.
All right, Money Triggs, what do you think? Why did they do this, and have you noticed the backlash all over Twitter?
Well, I agree with Aaron on everything, but Bitmain just invested a large amount in BitPay, right? And we know that the CEO has been pro-miner and repeating everything that the miners want and have been saying. So you could say that the CEO of BitPay is compromised. It doesn't take much to corrupt people at these high levels and amount of money involved. And that's clearly what's going on with BitPay right now. They've lost all integrity with this very irresponsible move, in my honest opinion.
Yes, this is, I see where you're coming from on that. And I mean, people are using the boycott BitPay hashtag out there right now. So this was it. I mean, it's showing what happens, I think, when you side with the miners. That's one of the reasons I'm bringing this up, is because, and we're going to talk about the possible 2x hard fork a little later on, but I just see an overwhelming majority of people, I mean, at least in social media, who are just disgusted and just want things to remain open and honest in the way they are, and not to do anything that could help the 2x people. Josh, what do you see going on here? Have you been hearing about this, and do you have any thoughts on what we've just said?
Yeah, I think it's really unprofessional. At the same time, the way that BitPay operates is that they're a B2B company, and if users are upset with them and go to their customers and express that discontent, it's not going to be good, because I think it's the same users who are paying with Bitcoin on all of their merchant sites who are actually in the know and are upset with it and find it unprofessional. So from a PR perspective, let alone if it's really dishonest or not, it's not going to end well.
All right. Well, you've heard our 3 guests. That's the opening shot right now. Pound that like button if you like what's going on. If you like this special European start time, you can check out all the links below, and you'll see who our guests are. You can check out their Twitters and follow them. Aaron, do you have any follow-up on what was just said, or has nothing more needs to be said here about the situation?
The Bitmain connection is interesting. They got this investment from Bitmain. BitPay got this investment from Bitmain a while ago. Now there's it's not hard to figure out that the current Bitcoin high fee environment is not good for BitPay, right? They build a business model basically on low fees. That's what they intend to do. They want to compete with, credit cards and PayPal and that kind of thing. So if you have to pay $1 for a Bitcoin transaction, that's not good for BitPay. So it's very possible. I have no special knowledge here, but it's very possible that their business model is point. And up till fairly recently, they were like their CEO Stephen Perry was making claims that Bitcoin was working fine and they had no problems, and that kind of tuned. And then they got this investment from Bitmain, and it just flip-flops in a very interesting way. That's hard to deny. So since Bitmain and Jihan have been pushing for a hard fork and bigger blocks for a while, it's hard to discount some kind of connection there.
Yeah, indeed. There's definitely things pointing in that direction. Any of you guys have anything to add to that?
Totally agree. 100%. And I'm not using BitPay anymore, and I'm going to advise everybody not to do it and find an alternative. What I saw also that Nicolas Dorier, the developer, is currently working on something like that. So it'll be interesting to see what he comes up with.
Indeed.
Yeah, I would just add that as a PC, I'm going to try and look for or spend my day looking for an alternative and see what else exists out there, because I think when you lose sort of the trust of your customer base, it opens up the opportunities for competitors.
All right, the power of the boycott here, people. The power of the market fighting back. We don't need the government to make rules. We can enforce our own rules and guide the direction of this in the free market. It's very, very exciting stuff to me. All right, Joshua, let's move on to talk about. Well, I think we kind of hit on this a little bit. Bcash, or whatever you want to call it, is surging, and some say it's because of what's going. There's Koreans that are buying it in South Korea. I'm curious. Again, its price is higher than a lot of people expected. Is this a sign that the market doesn't think this 2x hard fork is actually going to happen in November? I mean, I believe the 2x hard fork is, if they do it, it's just going to end up being another Bitcoin altcoin. So what's the real point? And I know these big blockers always seem to have some plan, have some plan that involves FUD. And I just assume they're going to drop the 2x and just jump into Bcash. What are your Bcash thoughts right now? I just jumped over a lot of things there, Josh, but tell us what's going on there.
Yeah, well, what I think it is there's a lot of pumping going on. There's sort of the owners of the coin who would like mining to become profitable, which would drive the price up. So they're incentivized to drive the price up and sort of lead in that direction and have this sort of snowball effect where the price will increase. It's a little bit also like Ethereum Classic, I think, in some ways, where you have a pretty small percentage of people who actually believe in the technical merits of it, and a lot of others who believe that they can sell the technical merits of it and sort of send the price up. And I think that, especially with what's going on in Bitcoin right now, they see sort of a big opportunity to pump that at this point while there's fear and uncertainty that's being pushed in the Bitcoin market as well. And so that's why you're kind of seeing the price rise to this point.
All right, Money Tricks, what do you think about this Bcash thing? It hasn't brought down the price of Bitcoin at all. I mean, we've had such a great Bitcoin week. Tell us what's going on.
Well, with Bcash, the current price rise was the difficulty rate went down. So then, of course, you have Gian and Roger trying to be the market makers, because, if you pump volume in and volatility, you'll have traders just trading it. They don't care what it is or philosophy or fundamentals or anything. So by the difficulty rate going down and them trying to create a market is, what they're trying to do to keep it alive, really.
All right. Aaron, what are your thoughts on Bcash now and its I guess its relationship with 2x? Will one cancel out the other? Will one help the other?
Yeah, that's interesting. There's an interesting dynamic there, because from what I can see, there's kind of you've got the proponents of a block size increase hard fork, and they're kind of looking at maybe it's maybe like a backup, right? Like if the November stuff doesn't happen, then maybe Bcash, then maybe they'll jump on Bcash. Like that could happen. On the other end, you also have the people who really don't want a block size increase hard fork right now, and they, in a way, have a similar attitude. They're also looking at Bcash like, hey, just go there, stop messing with our chain, and jump on the Bcash trade. That's what we would prefer too. Maybe implement Segwit on that chain. We don't care. So there's kind of these two, I wouldn't say extremes, but like the two kind of polar opposite groups of people here, both kind of like Bcash as a better alternative than the 2x hard fork. So it also makes you wonder who still supports the 2x hard fork then. Like who's left in the middle? Who's there? Where's that community? Who's backing that? To me, it really looks like a couple of companies, like a couple of CEOs kind of prefer that, but all of the community, all of the actual users, the real people who give value to stuff, they either like Bcash or just the Segwit, the Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's room for a third option here. I don't see the demand. So I don't know. Tell us about. I mean, in the time you're the timeline man here. What's the next big thing we should be looking for in terms of timeline for Segwit 2x that some people say they're worried about, but it doesn't look like the market's too worried about it because Bitcoin and Bcash are both doing quite well.
Well, the next big date is just Segwit activation itself. So that's, I don't know, Wednesday, Thursday, next week somewhere, the 23rd scheduled for. That's when we would see the first actual Segwit transactions on Bitcoin. Then after that, it's scheduled for 90 days after will be the 2x hard fork. It's gonna happen. The Garzik and the sort of team behind it is still very sure it's gonna happen. No one else seems to be sure of it, but that's scheduled, as far as I know, for 21st of November. But that can vary a bit depending on mining hash power increase or.
I want to add something because everybody's saying, and they're right about, if you want bigger blocks in Segwit, just go to Bcash. The only reason I think they don't want to do that is because they want to keep the ASIC boost exploit, which they have, a ton of hardware for. So what they're trying to do is have the bigger blocks and have ASIC boost alive so they can make more profit. And then also, of course, pushing for the 2x on Segwit. So of course they're swinging for the fences, which what I think they're trying to do here. And that's why I think they won't implement Segwit for Bcash just because of ASIC boost.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right,
Josh, oh, sorry, Aaron, yeah.
They could implement it as a hard fork potentially, right? And keep the ASIC boost stuff alive as well.
All right. Josh, anything to add?
Yeah, I would just add that I think that sort of the price gains is a little bit of a risk for future hard forks because people see that it's not catastrophic, which I think would become a house of cards and come tumbling down eventually. But I think from that perspective, just really not great to see hard fork doing really well and see price gains, even if it's not based on any sort of real technology advantage or users.
Well, speaking of price, oh yeah.
So a big difference with Bcash and the upcoming 2x hard fork is that Bcash actually took a pretty responsible of doing it. They implemented replay protection. They picked a new name, sort of, and a new ticker, so that at least avoided some confusion there. No wipeout protection. 2x will have wipeout protection as well, so that's covered. But the replay protection and the new name is very. That way, the split was relatively clean. There was some confusion of users sending Bitcoin to Bcash addresses and the other way around. So that was not ideal. But in general, that was a relatively clean split. While the 2x hard fork, they don't have replay protection. They so far have no intent of new name. That could be a big mess. That could be cause for a lot of confusion if hash power by majority flips to one chain, moves back because of profitability. Like there's so many scenarios that could end up in a huge mess simply because the B2X team is currently not taking responsible measures to avoid any of this.
It's also up to all the players in the space. If it's leading up to November and they're still being irresponsible, I mean, they can be ignored on a certain level. And just like people are boycotting right now Bitpay, these 2xers can be boycotted too, in a way. I mean, I don't know. We're gonna have to see how this all plays out. Right now, I'm not too worried about it, but I do say, of course, they're irresponsible, and of course they're just doing this out of not the best intentions in the world. And sorry, I think Josh, I interrupted you before. Did you have something else to say?
No, I think covered it.
Okay. Anyone else on this topic before we move on to the Bitcoin price, actually?
Well, currently the market is not worried because we're getting Segwit locked in like 4 days. So everybody's waiting for that. And then you also have the results of Bcash where they're like, okay, this is free money. But just like Aaron said, if they don't do it responsibly, then it could be Armageddon, which I don't think they'll do. They're just so unorganized and don't really, they're executing it so badly that everything will be done last minute, right? Because the team is small. They basically don't know really what's going on. So I think in the last moments, the market will start to adjust. But right now, everybody's just very happy because in 4 days, we'll have Segwit locked in. And then from there, Lightning will start to be implemented and will start to work. So short term, the market is bullish. But when the dates start to get closer and, just like what BitPay did yesterday, other companies will start to release maybe some bad blogs and the market will then react maybe, a bit more short-term bearish. That's if they keep pushing this agenda, of course.
All right, you actually kind of segued into the next topic here, which is good, which is the Bitcoin price. The Bitcoin price obviously got up to an all-time high this week. From what you just said, Money Triggs, you think that I mean, we have Segwit next week. This I think is going to be a very positive thing. I think we'll probably hit another all-time high. So you're saying that we'll probably do well next week, but you see a little bit of FUD on the horizon here. I mean, I don't want to put words into your mouth, so I'm asking you, what do you see for the Bitcoin price and the Bcash price for the next week or two?
If you think about it, if you bought before the fork, the price is now at like 4,800, right? Because you got free Bcash. So if you bought it on time, you're up even more. So short term will be good, but also you have to know traders, right? It's always pump the news, sell the event. So we might get a little sell off when Segwit actually locks in, because then you just have people taking profits because they've been long for quite a while right now. Okay, but I think that's healthy because we've been going up quick for quite a while. So that'll give chance for other people to jump in, which is very normal. But when we get closer to that Segwit 2x date and other companies start to release these blogs and stuff, it might get a bit hectic. Some people will maybe take some profits, and then you have also other people that'll be like, hey, it'll be another free coin, I'll get some, but they'll definitely be volatility. Definitely when you have Bitmain, which likes to release these, you know, controversial blogs saying like, oh, we're gonna just mine this chain and we're not gonna add a replay protection. And while then at the last moment they will, right? Because they're trying to affect the market the way they want it to. So it will get volatile, but like always, how many times have they released something that they didn't stand behind just to affect the market?
Yeah, excellent point. Aaron, what are your thoughts on the Bitcoin price for the next week and in the future here?
Oh, Adam, you really shouldn't ask me about price. I have no opinion on price whatsoever.
No.
Goes up, goes down. We'll see.
Okay. So no, I mean, there's just a lot. He mentioned a lot of psychological factors there too about what these big blockers do, which I think is always very interesting. Josh, what do you say with price of Bitcoin and Bcash leading into Segwit and then afterwards leading into this possible 2x thing in November?
Yeah, I think leading up to November, there'll be a lot of volatility. I think as news comes out, people will try and take their profits off the table, sort of worry in that sense. But I would say longer term than that, in the next year, the price will continue to rise. I know a lot of institutions and folks that have not purchased to date that are starting to talk about it and are starting to become sort of one of the hotter topics, just given the fact that we've had interest rates have been low for record times, and equities people feel overvalued. Everybody's looking for yield and sort of the next thing in that sense. And so there's a lot of sort of unsophisticated money that's interested in it. And once they figure out chain and custody rather, and how to secure private keys and things like that, I think infrastructure will be built. The price will continue to rise. And you also have this long tail of ERC20 tokens that are wildly overvalued, and it's only going to take, one to fall for them all to kind of take a hit, and a lot of that money will hopefully flow into Bitcoin.
Wow, you actually just brought up a lot of topics that I wanted to get to too. So pound that like button, everyone. We've got a lot of live viewers for this early in the morning in the United States, but in Europe, you're loving this time. So actually, let's talk about ICO land here. Let's talk about you talked about I don't think you used the term uneducated investors, but not sophisticated investors. Two things. Bitcoin has been all over the mainstream media this week. I mean, people are pumped about it. There's been good news. Josh, do you see this continuing? And do you see more people being brought into the space, pumping up the ICOs because of that? And tell us from your perspective as a VC, because you have a unique perspective, what's going on with ICOs? So that's a mouthful right there.
Yeah, I guess I get the last one first. I think that a lot of these projects are raising a lot of money quickly, and you have a lot of folks coming in, buying up all the tokens early on, hoping to resell them at a higher price, and obviously that's problematic. But especially when you have projects and things people are really excited about actually using, once you sort of give people millions of dollars, the incentives just aren't there in the same way, which is pretty problematic. And there was Decentraland had their ICO yesterday, just kind of building the metaverse on VR, and Snow Crash is one of my favorite books. So I was paying attention to it, and in like 30 seconds it sold out, and it's like 5 token holders with all the tokens. And here you have a project where you're supposed to use that to build up your land, and you have 5 people owning it, and it's just really misaligns the incentives and doesn't sort of allow the actual users who wanted to use it and build on top of it to be able to do so. And so I think that the structures have to get better. I think that sort of the timelines have to get better. You need to not raise all of this money before there's a product out there in most cases. And I think taking sort of steps to make sure that it's widely distributed, like 0x, for example, did, is important, even if you have to take a hit on the price and how much money you can raise.
All right, Money Triggs, your thoughts on all this?
Well, ICOs. Okay, well, last time I was on the show, Banker just did the ICO, and Ethereum, craze ICO. Well, guess what? The smart ones, the ones that are capable of doing an ICO accepting Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum and other altcoins, well, guess what? For example, Trezor did accept Bitcoin, which got majority in Bitcoin, but also accepted Ether. Well, they already doubled their dollar worth holding Bitcoin and doing it in Bitcoin. And guess what? Another 10% because they got all the free Bcash. The ones that did only Ether are down like 30%, which in some of their cases is, a large sum of money. So that's all I have to add about the ICO.
Yeah, that's a very good point. You actually said Trezor. You didn't mean to say Trezor. You meant to say
Tezos. Sorry.
Tezos. Yeah, Tezos. That's all right. Just wanted to clear all that up. Aaron, any thoughts on the ICOs and this new money and all the attention, the mainstream media giving attention to ICOs and Bitcoin this week, or Bitcoin especially?
I'm just looking at it all in amazement. To me, it's almost funny. There's no way projects should be valued anywhere near what these ICOs are valuing them. So that's some kind of accident waiting to happen. But that's also how the market will learn, right? The market will figure out maybe a startup with a white paper isn't worth 30 million, and next year they will a new startup won't raise that anymore, right? This is just the whole sort of financial infrastructure is kind of reinventing itself, and it's all going in fast forward. This is a hype stage, and it's I wouldn't recommend anyone to invest in any ICO at these valuations right now. Maybe it has potential. Maybe you're right. The concept could sort of fizzle itself out in something that could actually benefit someone somewhere at some point in the future.
I just feel that, again, Bitcoin has been all over the mainstream media recently. It brings in all these people who just want to make a lot of money, and then they see Bitcoin's $4,000. They think they can't afford it, so they get into this ICO thing. And I think that's part of the reason it's being propped up. I think Ethereum, the ease of, you can buy Ethereum just as easily as you can buy Bitcoin almost now because of Coinbase and all of that. But yeah, and people just think Ethereum is just a cheaper Bitcoin or the next Bitcoin. I want to get in on that. And Ethereum had some problems this week. I mean, it's had some good news. It's on blockchain.info. Now you can store it over there, which is good. But there have been some interesting, it got slowed down again by an ICO this week, I think. Aaron, do you know anything about that? Do you have any thoughts on Ethereum, what happened this week?
No, I know about as much about it as you do. Apparently, there was blockchain congestion again because of an ICO. Okay, well,
I'm gonna hand off the Ethereum topic then to Money Triggs to let hit. And again, we have all different views on this show, but because there's a lot of Ethereum fans out there, but they are familiar with Money Triggs and his views on Ethereum. So go for it, Money Triggs.
Listen, as we called it, right? The price spiked to 0.15 BTC, and now it's at like 0.7, 0.8. But talking about ICO hype, you got Floyd Mayweather, okay, one of the most famous athletes right now with eyes on him, freaking posting Instagram about an ICO, right? Which was the stocks prediction market one, right? So that's how hyped it is trying to get the dumb money in. Sorry to say that. Now I saw yesterday a Miami model with the game rapper is doing a freaking ICO for a marijuana coin. Okay. And the only thing they could say is, we want to make you rich. It's blockchain, right? It's the word that everybody knows to say. So that's how hyped we are right now, that Floyd Mayweather posts an ICO on Instagram and Twitter and freaking rappers with models launching projects. Okay, that's all I have to say about that right now.
I will say, before we went on air, I saw like a banner. I think it's on CoinMarketCap for that the rapper and the model pumping up an ICO. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is getting really mainstreamish at least, and it's yeah, it's going to bring in dumb money. There's no doubt about it. I mean, what are we going to, what's next? I mean, what is next in terms of the promotion of these things? And it's, God, yeah, I wouldn't touch these things at all. Josh, I'll let you close out. Any Ethereum thoughts? Anything you want to add to all this craziness?
Yeah, I'll just say it's very boiler room-esque, but sort of for the internet age. And so the Floyd Mayweather Instagram post. I had also heard through the grapevine of another top athlete, probably in the same tier, that has a startup and is going to go do an ICO and try and raise something like $500 million. And so you have these projects that nobody's really using or knows if they team can even build them. But then they see the DAO news with the SEC and they worry that it's going to be shut down. So everybody rush in and raise as many as possible before that potentially happens. And so just the incentives are screwed up all over the place.
Agreed. It's definitely crazy times ahead. Money Triggs, we're getting closer to the end here. Is there any topic that you wanted to bring up that I did not bring up? Any article, anything like that?
Let me think. Not really. Bcash, the blog with Bitpay was just scandalous. Really, it just pissed me off. I'm going full blown for an alternative. You should look into the Nicolas Dorier alternate, where he's gonna basically try to make them obsolete. So that'll be interesting to see what they're doing, because there's some good developers right now in the Dragon's Den trying to cook up something. So that'll be interesting to see what happens.
Okay, very interesting indeed. Aaron, I'm sure you've got some any articles on the way you got coming up, anything you want to talk about, or just any subjects that you've written about lately that you think should be mentioned? Anything, the floor is yours.
I don't know, maybe the Blockstream satellite stuff, if you discussed this in your show.
No, we actually haven't yet. Tell us more about that. At first I thought it was really gimmicky, but everyone's saying it's very important. So yeah, elaborate on that.
Right, good point. Okay, so I'm actually not an expert myself or anything like this. I just read what's in the media. So Blockstream, everyone knows Blockstream by now. It's like a well-known development company, right? Either you hate it or love it, it seems. And they're now making a sort of interesting pivot, I would say, or an addition to the services they're already providing. So they were originally doing like sidechain stuff and all sort of interesting development stuff, and now they're they didn't launch the satellites, but they're beaming the Bitcoin blockchain to Earth through satellites. So that's a new medium for Bitcoin, right? So this is very, like, it gets all the geeks excited, right? Like, Bitcoin is actually coming to you from space now, and you can literally set up your satellite and receive transactions through space and through the satellite. And so kind of the pitch behind it is that if you're in an area where there's no internet, like if you're in the sub-Saharan Africa and you're in some kind of area where there's no good internet connection and you can still use Bitcoin, that's kind of the pitch. It's kind of the main purpose, I think. And you can avoid internet censorship through this way. Now, I'm not an expert. I'm not nearly enough of an expert of these parts of Africa or these parts of the world where there's low internet access, and I'm not sure how big of a solution it is for these people. I don't know. What do you guys think? Is this because my first impression was like yours, like, yeah, it's cool, but it's kind of gimmicky. Like, who's actually going to use this?
Yeah, Josh, in terms of, you're a venture capital guy. What do you think about this project? I mean, from that perspective, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think to some degree it's a little bit of hype, and I don't know that there are all these use cases that will actually happen in reality, just given how sort of futuristic it is. I know that there are definitely parts of the world where there's no good internet access, and if you want to conduct a transaction, being able to see if the transaction went through, I guess, is potentially valuable. But at the same time, you can't send transactions to it, and so it's potentially valuable, but I don't know that it's such a big deal for that reason.
Okay, Money Triggs, any thoughts on the satellite?
I thought it was freaking awesome when I saw it, really. And it starts to brew the question about, you know, transacting the data via SMS and radio frequencies and all that kind of stuff. So it does make Bitcoin more decentralized in one aspect. So it got me excited, and it definitely gets a lot of media attention, you know, and the possibilities out there. So yeah, I was very much, I liked it.
You know, I think that in the end of the day, it does bring marketing, good PR to Bitcoin. I'm sorry, I interrupted someone there.
Yeah, so I was going to say, someone pointed this out to me, and I'm not nearly enough of an expert to see that Blockstream is now venturing into the domain of service provider, right? Because they're operating the satellites, they're going to provide this service, they're going to provide users with blockchain information, Bitcoin information, and people are going to depend on this service of theirs. Perhaps that is a different kind of approach to what they were doing, and you could wonder, like, if this becomes very big or popular, could it attract the regulators, right? Maybe, I don't know.
No, yeah, definitely thought provoking on where this could end, where this could bring us to. Josh, your closing thoughts or stuff you wanted to bring up. What I mean, any more venture capital perspective? Anything that we haven't heard about here in the that you guys are talking about? Just the floor is yours to bring up anything.
Yeah, not really at this point. I think that we're sort of taking a wait and see approach and sort of watching everything that's going on. And it's not really clear where those opportunities lie, especially since what we talked about with ICOs previously. I think there's still kind of tools in sort of the BitPay competitor that can be built and become valuable companies. But I think at this point, most investors are better off owning Bitcoin than investing in sort of the thing built on top of it.
Yeah, man, Bitcoin has done very well over the last year. People need to get back to basics sometimes instead of trying to get into these 100x returns or whatever. I don't even know what people are looking for anymore. They're very impatient, very impulsive these days. Pound that like button, people, if you'd like long-term thinking that we try to bring you on this channel. And remember, we do this Week in Bitcoin show every Friday, and I do post a new show on this channel every day. And we try to bring you the best guests from all over the world here. And before we go, actually, I wanted to speak about an event or a country that's obviously international here. There's rumors about North Korea and mining Bitcoin. And, you know, it's hard to know what really goes on in that country. And, you know, you hear so many rumors about it. But I think it opens the door to a very interesting topic of some countries that are kind of on the fringe. I think Bitcoin is an opportunity for them. It might be an opportunity to do bad. It might be an opportunity to do good. It might involve mining. It might just involve hoarding. I guess this is the exit question here for everyone. Where do you see this going? Are we on the verge of a country, a nation state, really getting hardcore into cryptocurrency like we have not seen before, like this rumor is implying? Aaron?
Yeah, I have heard this rumor before. I think the idea is North Korea is good with power. Like, that's one of the things they know how to do. And, you know, they've got their nuclear stuff. And so if you're good with power, it kind of makes sense to get into Bitcoin mining, right? And that does beg the question. That's not necessarily true for Korea only. Countries in general are pretty good with power. Like, they know how to handle that stuff, right? So if you're good with power, Bitcoin mining makes a lot of sense. So it's interesting to think about. That's definitely on the table. That will sort of move towards a future where mining is more and more dominated by state actors. that could happen.
Money Triggs, your thoughts on nation states getting into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency?
Well, Russia was going to raise 100 million, right, to also start mining. The advisor of the tech advisor of Putin was going to raise 100 million for mining. And before I close on that, I also wanted to say very excited for the Lightning getting activated and see Bitcoin shine with all the application use cases that will finally be able to be executed.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. You brought that up. Actually, that's good. Does that, Josh, you have any thoughts on the nation state thing or on the Lightning that he just brought up?
Yeah, I think in the nation state thing, I mean, it makes sense, right? If Bitcoin is the global money, global currency, countries that sort of try and control things will be trying to get into mining, ways to sort of have their voice heard. It also makes sense, I mean, because, and I thought about this first when there was that report that Putin met with Vitalik a couple months ago, for some of these countries to go and, let's say, buy a bunch of Bitcoin and then make an announcement like this, or even sort of sponsor it as the nation's currency, the price then goes through the roof and they benefit and profit in a huge way. And so that's certainly a possibility, as long as there's still multiple parties to keep it decentralized. I don't know that it's a dangerous thing.
Yeah, the reason I said dangerous, if a country that's kind of represses its people already is able to either buy Bitcoin or mine Bitcoin, and then the price is pumped because of that, they become very much richer and are able to enforce their horrible ways even more so on their people. One would hope that it would make them more of a freedom loving, like they said, oh, okay, now we don't have to repress our people as much, but it never seems to work out that way, unfortunately. I don't want to end on a negative note there. Anyone else have anything else to say? Chime in here before we get out of here. All right then. Well, it was a great week in Bitcoin. We did, I mean, who knows if we'll hit some more all-time highs next week. We've obviously got Wednesday is going to be Segwit. Whatever day it is, it's going to be awesome. So you're going to hear a lot of hype about that. So who knows what we could foresee there. I see Ty Zen is in the chat, or at least somebody that looks like Ty Zen over there. How you doing, man? All right. Well, everyone, I'm Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister, Disrupt Meister. Remember to pound that like button. I thank all my guests for being on here. It was wonderful to have a perspective from all over the world, and that's what we try to bring you here. Remember to subscribe to this channel, like this video, share this video. For now, I will say goodbye. Everybody, have a great week, and thank you for watching early in the morning. And European people, I hope you like this. I'm in Quebec City right now. I'll be here for a month, so we'll hang out, dudes, up here speaking French. Bye-bye. See ya.